The 911 call came in at 2:43 a.m. The voice on the line was frantic, strained, breathless, filled with terror. "My wife, she's not breathing. There's blood, so much blood. I think she's dead." The dispatcher tried to calm him, asking his name, address, and if he could perform CPR, but the man was hysterical, crying out between panicked breaths. "Her head, God, her head is open. Please hurry." The man's name was David Lorne, a 36-year-old software consultant living in suburban Tennessee with his wife, Emily, and their 5-year-old daughter, Lily. On paper, the Lornes were the image of upper-middle-class bliss, a 2-story craftsman home in a quiet cul-de-sac, a neatly trimmed lawn, family photos on the wall. But that night, everything shattered. When first responders arrived just 6 minutes later, David was waiting on the porch, blood smeared across his white t-shirt, his hands trembling, his eyes wild. "She's inside," he choked out, pointing toward the living room. They found Emily slumped on the hardwood floor beside the couch, her skull visibly caved in, a pool of blood beneath her. One arm was twisted unnaturally beneath her torso. Her eyes were wide open, blank, staring at nothing. On the coffee table, a shattered ceramic vase lay in pieces, its jagged edges glistening with red. Paramedics quickly confirmed what was obvious. Emily Lorne was dead. At first glance, it looked like a break-in gone wrong. The front door showed no signs of forced entry, but a window in the kitchen was partially open. A few drawers had been yanked open. David, barely able to speak, claimed he'd been in the upstairs office finishing a late-night project when he heard a crash. By the time he rushed down, he said, he found his wife like that. Detectives began arriving before sunrise. Among them was Detective Mia Rankin, a sharp-eyed, no-nonsense investigator with a quiet reputation for spotting what others missed. She stood in the doorway, surveying the scene. No, it wasn't enough to arrest him. Not yet, but the image was forming. A manipulative husband, a terrified wife, a staged scene, and a murder disguised as a robbery gone wrong. Still, the smoking gun was missing, until they checked the baby monitor. Emily and David's daughter, Lily, had a nursery camera, standard baby monitor with cloud upload. It only recorded motion-triggered clips. Most were ordinary. Lily turning in bed, muffled lullabies, a soft light. But one clip stood out. At 2:34 a.m., 9 minutes before the 911 call, muffled shouting could be heard. Then, the sound of something heavy hitting the floor. A gasp, a scream. A man's voice, David's voice, said sharply, "Just stop. Why couldn't you just shut up?" Then silence. Then, footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate. The clip cut off. The timestamp proved David was not upstairs when he claimed. He was downstairs. He was with Emily. Detectives brought him in again. They played the audio. He stared at the table, said nothing, his hands clenched. Detective Rankin leaned in and asked one final question. "David, if you were upstairs when she died, why does your voice say otherwise?" He didn't answer, but it didn't matter. The walls were closing in. And then, a twist no one saw coming. As police prepared to obtain an arrest warrant, David did something unexpected. He vanished, packed a bag, left Lily with his sister, disappeared into the night. By the time the warrant was signed, he was already gone. A statewide manhunt began. And then, for days later, a body was found, floating in the Cumberland River. Male, mid-30s, matching David's height and build. Was it suicide? A staged escape? When detectives arrived to examine the body, what they discovered would flip the case upside down and change everything they thought they knew. The body pulled from the Cumberland River bore a striking resemblance to David Lorne. Same build, same brown hair, same jawline. The local medical examiner listed the cause of death as drowning with blunt force trauma to the head, possibly from hitting rocks or debris in the water. There was no ID on the body, just waterlogged clothes and a wristwatch. But when the fingerprints came in from the lab 2 days later, everything changed. It wasn't David. The body belonged to a 34-year-old drifter named Tomas Urek, last seen hitchhiking through Tennessee 2 weeks earlier. He had no known connection to David, Emily, or anyone else tied to the case. So how did Tomas end up in David's clothes, wearing David's watch? Detective Rankin didn't believe in coincidence. She suspected a setup, a staged suicide meant to give David a head start on escape. The discovery of Tomas's identity confirmed it. David had faked his own death, and now he was out there, somewhere. The search intensifies. The FBI joined the manhunt. Airports, train stations, and border crossings were alerted. David's face hit every local and national news outlet, but he had a 4-day head start, and by all accounts, he'd prepared. When police searched David's car, found abandoned near a hiking trail, they discovered a burner phone, a prepaid debit card with just under $5,000, and an empty duffel bag that likely once held clothes. Security footage from a nearby gas station showed David, put up, sunglasses on, buying snacks and bottled water. After the supposed time of his death, there were no further sightings. Weeks passed, then months. The media moved on, but Detective Rankin didn't. She spent late nights rereading Emily's journal, revisiting evidence, looking for the thread David might have missed. And then, she found it. In a line buried in one of Emily's messages to her friend Gina, she wrote, "If anything ever happens to me, check the bank. I've hidden everything. I can't let him get away with this." Detectives traced her bank records and discovered a safe deposit box in her name at a small credit union in Chattanooga, over 100 miles from their home. Inside, they found a flash drive, a sealed envelope, a small notebook. The flash drive contained audio recordings. Emily had secretly recorded conversations with David over several months. In one recording, David could be heard threatening her. "You leave me, and I swear, you'll regret it. I don't care what it takes. I built this life. You don't get to walk away with half of it. You think anyone will believe you? You're just a scared little girl playing victim. No bruises, no proof. Go ahead, try me." The notebook was even more damning. Emily had chronicled David's patterns, where he went, who he met, even suspicious transactions that didn't show up on their joint accounts. One note read, "He's transferring money, little by little, to something offshore. I don't know how, but he's planning something. He's not just angry anymore. He's methodical." And in the sealed envelope, a passport photo of David with a fake name, Peter Rawls. She must have found it by accident. A photo he meant to destroy, but she kept it. 6 months later, a tip from nowhere in late March. A tip came in from a bartender in Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. A man had come into the bar several nights over the course of a week. American, paid in cash, kept to himself, but asked about quiet border towns. The bartender remembered his face because of the photo on the news months earlier. "It was him," he said. "That guy with the wife. The one who ran." A quick check of border surveillance confirmed it. David had crossed into Mexico using a forged passport 2 weeks after the murder. Now the trail was warm again. Working with Mexican authorities, the FBI tracked David to a small coastal town in the Yucatan Peninsula, living under the alias Peter Rawls, just like Emily had discovered. He had dyed his hair, grown a beard, and was posing as a travel blogger. But he wasn't just hiding, he was planning a new life. When authorities moved in, David didn't resist. He smiled, even as they put him in handcuffs. "You took your time," he said. "I almost thought you gave up." Back in Tennessee, the trial became a media sensation. David Lorne, once a respected husband and father, was now the face of cold-blooded premeditated murder. Prosecutors revealed everything. The staged break-in, the secret message to the burner phone, the faked suicide, the body switch, the offshore accounts. But the most devastating testimony came from someone no one expected. Lily, now 6 years old, she took the stand via recorded video, guided gently by a child psychologist. She didn't describe violence, but she remembered something haunting. Mommy was crying, Daddy was yelling, then it was quiet. Then Daddy told me to go back to sleep. Her testimony wasn't the most damning in evidence, but it pierced the jury in a way nothing else could. David's defense tried everything, blamed a friend, questioned the recordings, suggested Emily was emotionally unstable. It didn't work. After a 7-week trial, the jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. David was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Emily's parents were granted full custody of Lily. They moved out of state, changed schools, and started fresh. Detective Rankin visited Emily's grave not long after the sentencing. She placed a single white rose at the headstone and whispered, "You saved yourself. You just didn't live to see it." And that, perhaps, is the deepest tragedy of all. Emily knew she was in danger. She did everything right, documented, prepared, confided in someone she trusted. But even then, it wasn't enough to save her life. It was only enough to bring him down.